On January 10th, 1999, the world was introduced to Batman Beyond, a story that takes place in the distant future from its predecessors in Batman the Animated Series and the New Batman Adventures. This show was unique. Aside from the obvious cyberpunk aesthetic that this series had, this is the first and only time in an animated series that a character not named Bruce Wayne held the mantle of Batman. Excluding the first couple moments of the show where we see an older Bruce struggling to fight crime, Terry McGinnis is the one that puts on the suit and fights crime deep into the night. McGinnis is a 17-year-old high school senior who, unlike Bruce, was a very unruly young man, often getting into physical altercations and was noted to have served time in juvenile detention centers in his past. His origin story to becoming Batman is similar to Bruce Wayne's, but it lacks certain layers of depth that Bruce has had. Bruce saw both of his parents gunned down as a young child. In most stories, Bruce doesn't have any brothers, sisters, or any family he was close to in his youth, so he grew up in the comfort of a very large mansion, loads of money, but lacked love. Alfred was around, sure, but come on, it wasn't the same as having your parents. But Terry's origin story is different. He grew up with his mother and father. He had a younger brother that he loved dearly as well. His family didn't possess the wealth of the Waynes, but the love Bruce lost, Terry had. But as I said before, Terry was a bit of a problem child, and one of his fights was with the Joker gang. Coincidentally, the fight took place in front of Wayne Manor. Bruce at his old age can still beat your average street thugs, but he needs to take medicine. So as Terry helps Bruce inside, one thing leads to another, and Terry finds himself in the Batcave. And once he got down there, he didn't need to question Bruce. Everything was out in the open. The famous Batman was Bruce Wayne. As you'd expect, grumpy old Bruce kicked Terry out, and as Terry is walking to his home, he learns that the Joker gang killed his father. And that there is the tragedy that Terry and Bruce can bond over. But unlike Bruce, Terry feels responsible for the death of his father because it's likely the Joker gang only cared about Terry's father because of Terry's actions. Or at least that's what he thought at first. After the death of his father, Terry does some digging and finds out who was responsible and sneaks into Wayne Manor and steals the Batsuit. The newer Batsuit. To me, this was an excellent way of introducing Terry as Batman because with any other version of Bruce, this wouldn't have happened. Batman in general is an ultra-vigilant and skeptical person, but the DCAU's version takes that to the highest degree out of all the animated versions of Batman. But this cartoon does a great job of showing that even the great Batman can't stop Father Time. At first, Bruce is opposed to Terry wearing the suit, but Bruce acknowledges that Terry is just as stubborn as he is, and it would be better to take the boy under his wing to train him than to turn him away. Because one thing Bruce believes is that the world needs Batman. Even if the current Batman is a little different than him, he believes the world needs that figure. He said it multiple times. And that's not to say that Bruce views himself as perfect. It actually couldn't be further from the truth as he actively takes steps to ensure his pupils don't end up like him. He knows he's a tortured man who's stuck in his ways. In many different forms of Batman media, the people around him even say that Batman is just as crazy as those he encounters. Batman Beyond is in the same universe as the legendary Batman the Animated Series. The show is widely respected among cartoon fans, and it was followed by the new Batman Adventures. TMBA is essentially a continuation of Batman the Animated Series with major artistic changes that most people aren't fans of. Batman Beyond, though, it was fresh. It didn't have to adhere to the same rules that the previous Batman cartoons did. Terry didn't have to be like Bruce. To be honest, Terry being so different from Bruce is why I like this cartoon so much. First off, most kids watching Batman cartoons can't relate to an orphan billionaire who's one of the smartest men in the world who just so happens to be adept at multiple types of hand-to-hand combat. But a reckless yet ambitious 17-year-old who chases girls and isn't a great fighter is much more feasible for the average Batman consumer. Majority of comic book superhero fans look for relatability in characters. That's why Spider-Man is arguably the most famous superhero ever. And even though Bruce Wayne's Batman has no shortage of fans, you can't argue that Terry was easier for kids to like. The show could take liberties with the art style and it be accepted because the show is 40 years removed from Batman the Animated Series, and this aspect helps the show stand out in a positive way. But I can't lie, Batman Beyond doesn't have a great rogues gallery. It's solid at best. They are very similar to the classic Batman villains in terms of some sort of accident turning them into an enemy of Batman, but they lacked the character and individuality of Bruce Wayne's villains. Blight is the man who's responsible for the murder of Terry's father, and by extension, this entire story. Terry has a reason to dislike him, but personally, I don't feel that strongly towards Blight in the slightest. Ink is another staple throughout the show, and she's not very interesting either. The Royal Flush Gang is solid, and somehow this show created someone who uses Venom even less interesting than Bane. This show just doesn't do a great job with villains, but I think it more than makes up for this with Terry's interpersonal relationships. Seeing how he interacts with his best friend Max is always a treat. I also always appreciated how his on and off girlfriend Dana never accepted his absent nature, even though most times it was because he was saving the city. And most of all, Bruce. In his younger days, Bruce's mission as Batman was paramount. If he thought someone would get in the way of this crusade, he pushed them away. And after decades of doing this, he ended up alone. No Alfred, his sidekicks had all outgrown him, and he purposely alienated any romantic partner he could have had. Sometimes I look at Terry as a version of Robin, but he came around when Bruce couldn't be Batman anymore. Bruce did need help on the streets, but he also needed people around him more lighthearted and joyous than himself. It's what helped such a dark person like him maintain his sanity as best as he could. Allowing Terry to be Batman gave Bruce purpose. To train a young crime fighter to do great things as he did, but to not end up as he did. I hope that makes sense. I love the costume in this cartoon, the city looked great, and boy, that theme song, man. It gets me ready for an episode more than any other Batman theme song, except for this one. But overall, I really enjoyed this show, and when people speak of great cartoons, I'd like to hear this one more often. Because it doesn't feature Bruce Wayne as Batman, I think this cartoon gets pushed to the side, but in the greatness that is the DCAU, this is one of the top shows for sure. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this. But until then, this is BigTune, and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.